Do you know what day it is today? No, not April 30th. It's February 19th, which is the 10th anniversary of the game Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. So, another date related to the character of Raiden. This game is a genre-defining masterpiece and one of the most iconic video games of this generation, despite not even releasing in this generation. The idea of Metal Gear Rising turning 10 years old today is surprising, not because I particularly remember it when it released, but because its politics and themes have aged very well and even predicted a lot of modern politics today. In this video, to remember this classic, I want to highlight one of the best qualities of the story, the unsubtlety of it all. This game is not subtle in a really admirable way, and I think we can learn from it, for a variety of reasons. What do I mean by unsubtle in this context? Well, Metal Gear Rising is unabashedly confident in itself, and this is very evident from how it is written. Characters don't try to hide who they are or what their philosophies are. Nearly everyone is over the top, and I think it's also pretty evident that the set pieces and the fights of this game are absolutely huge. The way they're taken seriously feels super cool. The first level of this game has you pick up and throw a Metal Gear ray. Metal Gear Solid 2 had a sneaking section, basically hyping this whole thing up, and the unabashedness and sheer fucking coolness of this game is what makes it stand out to people at first. It's what makes a great game into a popular great game. It's fun to watch and easy to love. As for the characters, they're what makes the game. Each boss basically goes on long-winded speeches about their philosophies, and it is not subtle in explaining how the philosophies of each character was born from violence.
I lost my whole family, everything. But I butchered those fuckers. My family's killers. That's when I realized I am a killer too. And a good one at that.
And will eventually cause more violence.
You want with the Prime Minister?
I want him dead. Nothing personal, of course. Africa's just getting a bit too peaceful.
And also how they relate to real-life events, such as how the game directly mentions or alludes to the Iraq War a few times. These philosophies all clash with Raiden's in a very entertaining way, because they're also strong in their beliefs and cause fights that are, well, they go hard for sure. 10 years later, and this game still goes incredibly hard, and it never feels ashamed of itself when it gets ridiculous. Now, this might not seem like much at first. Sure, they're confident in the material, but aren't most pieces of media? Well, not really, because believe it or not, there are media out there that are popular and give off a feeling that they're constantly cringing at themselves. Lots of people have talked about this before, but there are lots of pieces of media that are constantly making jokes about themselves, completely removing the tension from the situation. The game Forspoken recently released, which is infamous for its really, really bad trailer. It just seems to not have confidence in this world it established. And the game has been criticized for the way it's constantly making wisecracks about the world that break the tension of almost every scene. It's not just that either. MCU films, Rick and Morty, they've been criticized for the same thing. Sure, I guess you can say it makes it a little more realistic. That would probably be the reaction of most people to half the stuff that happens in Metal Gear Rising. But if jokes were made like that so frequently in Rising, it would ruin the feel the game already has. This is already a really funny game. It does not need that to make it better. We live in a world that tells us to be ashamed of a lot of things. And that is reflected in our media. So when we see something that's so over the top and ridiculous, something we laugh at yet admire for how cool it is, it sticks with us. There is a place for observational humor that comments on a conflict our heroes are in and laughs at it. But if it breaks all tension of an otherwise good story, I don't want it. And Metal Gear Rising understands this. It has some parts with this type of humor, but overall, it takes its cyborg ninjas and robotic dogs 100% seriously. Now finally, the biggest reason Metal Gear Rising's unsubtlety makes it memorable is how it affects its politics. Look at old War Crimes Atrocity. When you're first introduced to him, he feels like a mere caricature of your typical pure evil warmonger. The player likely understands this is extreme, but There are people who act like this in real life. A very cruel, fringe minority of people, but it's still there. And then along comes Senator Armstrong. This so-called fringe minority is now working with a United States Senator, a real genuine politician who is elected in a real genuine position. And when you fight him, he is blatant, unsubtle about his beliefs. But not at first. At first, he just seems like a regular conservative politician, a regular American man. 10 years after the release of this game, United States, the most dominant country on the earth by a long shot, has fascists in its government. Seriously, people who simply just want to take away the rights of citizens, who want wars to continue, and who wish for instability and political violence. This is a fact. Senator Armstrong represents the ideal conservative to these people. He exudes confidence. He's strong and capable, but most of all, he hides these fascistic beliefs with a mask. It's a well-known tactic of the far right to bring people in slowly. Armstrong does this too. When speaking to Ryden, he appeals to Ryden's worldview. He talks about how he wishes to make an America where one can carve out their own path, bring themselves up from nothing with strength alone. To a soldier who was born from nothing and manipulated his whole life, but was lucky and strong enough to become something greater, it would be appealing. When Ryden appears to agree with him, Armstrong seems genuinely happy. For a man with this much conviction to fall for Ryden's simple trick like this, he would have had to see people join his side plenty of times. Armstrong has an ideal world he wants to forge in violence, just like Ryden. It's almost like they're just like each other and both trying to make history or something? I don't know. So he appeals to this common goal to try to get Ryden to join him. But his ideal world, believe it or not, is bad actually. He quite literally wants a world where only the strong will survive and the weak will be purged. Mass genocide. He's not greedy. He's batshit insane. And if you don't think wanting to purge the weak and burn America down is bad, you've fallen for it. Well, except for the time us Canadians burned down America. Mainstream conservatives will do the same thing as old Armstrong here, to get people to believe their batshit insane ideas. Look at Andrew Tate. He heals two men's sense of loneliness and insecurity, to get them to believe a batshit insane ideology based on hatred of women. Ben Shapiro appeals to people's fear of change and an aesthetic of rationality to get them to believe a batshit insane ideology based on hatred of trans people. Donald Trump appeals to people's sense of being devalued in their workplaces by saying immigrants are coming to take their jobs, and gets them to believe a batshit insane ideology based on hatred of immigrants. What does this have to do with Metal Gear Rising? Well, it understands that subtlety is a weapon utilized by evil people to hide beliefs that aren't subtle at all. Most conservatives, sundowners, harming people for profit, but the ones really in charge are Armstrongs. Just batshit insane. And you can't just be batshit insane in politics. You have to hide it from the unenlightened masses. Just like Armstrong does. You know how he basically has two speeches? One before the Metal Gear Excelsis, or whatever it's called, fight, and one before you fight him? Well, look at what he says after his first speech.
All right, the truth then.
He lies. He just admits to lying. Huh. We live in an unsubtle world, and the smartest thing Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance ever did was recognize this. Being unabashedly confident in yourself is a good thing. It lets people know who you really are. Only we have to hide it all the time to protect ourselves, whether it be from public shame, for your own safety, whatever. But hiding your true beliefs can be a force for danger. One that can harm people, and one that can bring down a democracy. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is popular with this generation, not just because it doesn't hide its true self, but it calls out those who don't either. 10 years later, this game has aged very well, And as more and more conservatives start making more and more people batshit insane, it will continue to age better in a dark sort of way. It reminds us of the value of subtlety in life and in politics, which will always be important to remember. Hey look, I'm not a video game YouTuber anymore. I'm now a sometimes political video game YouTuber. Thank you all for watching. I will see you later.